Please understand, many times when preachers and people are talking about being obedient to God, that's not the root cause of what's going on. It's not an obedience issue. Not in the kingdom. 99% of it is not an obedience issue. The reason we see it as obedience is because people don't carry out what God asked them to do. But to go and say, be obedient, that's not an answer. You have to get to the root. It's not that they're not obedient. It's that they don't have faith. Understand this. In the kingdom, it's very rare that obedience exists by itself. Why did the children of Israel not cross Jordan into the promised land? Were they disobedient? Yeah. But why were they disobedient? They had no faith that God would do what He said He would do. So to address that as an obedience issue won't fix it. You got to go back to the root and address belief. They did not believe the words of God. They weren't convinced. Amen. And because they weren't convinced, the action that comes from belief, which is faith, which you can also call obedience, but obedience won't cover it because it's not just obedience. You would easily be obedient if you had the belief. So obedience is not the problem. You're not convinced. Because faith is a verb. It already entertains obedience. When you believe, the outward action of belief is faith. You understand? What does Hebrews 11 teach us? It's the evidence of something unseen. It's the obedience that comes forth out of being convinced in your heart. Evidence of the unseen. What's the unseen? You're totally convinced of what God said. And because you're totally convinced, the natural evidence is that you walk in a way that proves you're convinced. Obedience. But it's faith. And so if I have trouble doing what God's told me to do, it's not necessarily an obedience issue 99% of the time. I need to go back and get that belief. I need to go back and get back in that word and build that belief up. Also, the reason a lot of times people don't get what they believe they should get from the word. And they say, but I have faith. No. Because what do we try to do? We try to back into things, right? Well, if I can just be obedient, this has got to happen. Not true. You can be obedient without the faith and nothing takes place. You can't manufacture faith, guys. That's what everybody's thinking. Oh, well, if I have faith and I just do. No. You have to have such a convinced belief on the inside that you just do out of that. That's what actually works. And that's what brings the kingdom out of you into the earth. There's no way to say, well, I'm believing, so I'm just going to do. And no, doing comes out of belief. You can't do till you believe. You can't keep doing and say, well, see, I'm going to believe. No. Amen?